Hi, it's Melissa Langton from Accelerate with your daily dose of people paracetamol and the next great installment in our Unlocking the Code to a High-Performing Business video series. Today, we have the wonderful Tristram Morgan, the director and founder of 365 Solutions Group. He has some amazing inspirational words for you today. Keep an ear out for when he talks about having a business is all about leaving a legacy. And stay tuned till the end and you'll find out what we both have in common. Enjoy, and I am sure you're going to get a lot out of this today. Thanks. Good morning, Tristram Morgan. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Melissa. I am really well, thank you. How are you?
That is, just, you know, I have finished my morning coffee, so I'm pretty happy. So thanks so much for joining me this morning, because yeah, it's a 9:45 on a sunny Tuesday morning here in Brisbane. So for those that are watching or listening out there, can you tell them what you do and why do you do it?
Sure. So what we do is we help businesses to automate their processes, streamline their systems to drive efficiency. And it's really about being able to deliver more impact and to get back to what you went into business for in the first place. Nobody starts a business thinking, oh, I can't wait to tackle 20 hours of admin every week. But that's what we end up doing. So in order to remove that burden, a lot of the time it's about automating and simplifying, connecting systems so they talk to each other so you don't have to manage them all independently, etc. And it's interesting, the question as to why I started it has definitely evolved. So the true original reason why I started this business was that I was working for someone doing something fairly similar, and I thought they were making a complete dog's breakfast of it. And, having sat down and said, hey, can we do things differently? I want to work with you to turn this around. They said yes, behaved no. So I basically decided to go and do it myself because I thought I could do it better. Then I did the Key Person of Influence course a few years ago. And in that, you really have to drill down to your value foundation. What is it that you do? What is it that you actually do? It's a bit like the old analogy of, you know, you buy a drill bit because you want a hole, not the drill bit. You know, what is it that really that you are providing people? And at the time, I was really sort of trying to articulate what I do. I really love what I do, and I was solving business problems. And what I realized during this course is that the two things that cross over for me are a desire to solve problems and the desire to leave a legacy that feels worthy and valuable. And at the time I thought, well, the reason that I'm doing this is really that I want to support small businesses to compete with the big boys. My kids are growing up in a world where they'll either have to be entrepreneurial or work for an entrepreneur. You know, all the standard jobs are disappearing and being automated. So I thought, well, I can help small businesses and I can help those who are going to either provide income or set the pattern for my kids in the future. And that felt reasonably comfortable, but it wasn't complete. And then the most amazing thing happened. I went to a seminar with B1G1, who I'd already met through an ethical clothing business I ran as a sideline a few years ago, and still have actually, but just it's kind of dormant because I don't have time to give it. But it was about the ethical clothing business. I wanted it to be ethical, sustainable, and charitable. So how do we give back to the textile workers? And that was a difficult thing to achieve. B1G1 is a mechanism by which you can donate to all sorts of worthy causes around the world, including things like providing access to a sewing machine so a woman in Bangladesh can earn a living for herself. So when I came across B1G1, it married the problem solving that we do in the business and the leaving a legacy so nicely that why I do what we do is because I love to solve problems and I want to leave a legacy. So my business goal is actually to create 1 billion giving impact through B1G1. It's not about growth of the business. It's not about revenue. It's not about the size of the business. If I can leave 1 billion impacts behind me in terms of days of clean drinking water, planting trees, etc., then I feel that my life has been truly worth living.
That is just amazing, Tristram. So, I mean, you could think that the systems and processes that you do leave a legacy anyway, but you've really taken it to another level. And for those naysayers out there going, well, you can't run a business without looking at revenue and turnover. I'm just assuming that in order to make those impacts, you have to have revenue and turnover anyway. Just as you said, that's the vehicle. The outcome is actually those impacts, isn't it? Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, if you're in business, you have to make money to continue to be in business. Right. And really, if you're not growing, then you're withering. There's not much in between. So growth is absolutely the engine to make this happen. But the question that most people will ask themselves at some point in the journey is, why am I doing this? Because frankly, being an entrepreneur, it's often seen as, you know, from an employee's perspective, oh, it's easy for you. You're the boss. You get to keep all the money. You get to make all the decisions. You got all the power and autonomy and authority.
Yeah. Do you get to keep all the money, Tristram?
Well, no, the tax office have something to say about that. But you're also the person who has to hire and fire. You're the one who has to worry about whether you're going to make payroll or not. You're the one who has to prop up the business when you don't have the cash to make it work. But it's a harder road than just getting a job. There's no question. So most sane business owners will at some point ask themselves, is this really worth it? Should I just go to the job? And for me, the ability to make the difference with B1G1 is it's the fuel that keeps the engine going through really lean times when things are tough, when it's hard to find the motivation. Because I know that I'm going home to a cozy house and I'm going to climb into a bed that's nice and comfy, while there are other people who are going to be starving that day, and they're going to be wanting for clean drinking water that won't make them sick. And so being able to make those differences that's the thing that drives me. So absolutely, you're in business, you might as well do the best you can. But why are you continuing? What's driving you? If it's just about money and, you know, furnishing your own home or feathering your own nest, it doesn't feel like a good enough reason. I've never been coin operated enough to connect what I'm doing in the day with my financial position at the end of the month. That's not enough of a driver for me. So that's absolutely, you have to make money, and by being able to make money, I can make some of those wonderful things happen.
That's amazing. So you mentioned growth. So obviously, and I've known you for quite a while now, and I think when we first met, you had 3 or 4 staff within the business. And for those that, because I don't think we've actually said your business name. What is it?
So the business is 365 Solutions Group.
There we go. 365. I knew what it was, but I wanted to make sure everyone else knew. So of course I'll put all the contact details on the screen for people. So at 365 Solutions Group, how many staff do you have now?
So we're up to 8 staff plus a couple of interns. We have been up to 10 or 11, and you know, you make mistakes, you grow the business in the wrong direction, you take on the wrong people. It's a constant tweaking and refining in order to get things working optimally. But so we're in pretty good shape now to be able to double the team, because we have the right processes in place. We have the right platform to build on without the wheels falling off as we get
Excellent.
bigger.
Excellent. So what would be your tip to a business owner that might be starting out, or someone that is actually at that sort of sweet spot of, should I grow, should I not? What would be your tip for a high-performing business?
There are quite a few, but I suppose if I had to boil it down to one in particular, it would be just to embrace the mistakes. You will make them. You have to make them. If you're not making them, then you're not trying hard enough. And those mistakes will be spending money in the wrong areas. They'll be focusing on the wrong metrics. They'll be hiring the wrong people. They'll be building the team perhaps in the wrong shape. And you don't know what you don't know until you come across a better way of doing things. So we're constantly going through coaching programs, and I'm an avid consumer of audio books and so on to keep finding out what I need to do to take the business to the next level. But you have to embrace the mistakes, because if you take it on and feel like you keep getting things wrong, well, yeah, of course you are, because you're doing something you've never done before. And in order to get better at it, you have to keep trying things. And some of those things will work and some won't. So my number one tip is just be prepared to do whatever it takes and embrace the mistakes.
And how do you recover after a mistake? Because I know that there's some personalities that will just fall off a cliff. They've made a mistake and it's affected them in whichever way it has. How do you recover, and how do you wake up, or how do you move on, or be comfortable in the uncomfortable, I guess?
For me, Melissa, it's about perspective. So what would you be doing if you weren't doing this? Who's started a successful business without making mistakes? You know, what is it you're comparing yourself to that is an impossible standard to reach? But the other perspective for me is about B1G1. You know, because we give through the work that we do, because a portion of what we make goes to worthy causes around the world, important causes. That's the thing that I have a responsibility now, in as far as I'm concerned, to keep going with. So my very minor problems in the scheme of things aren't a reason to stop doing the important things. And it's not necessary that people do that, but I think people do need to find what it is that is driving them, because if it's just about making money, there are easier ways. It needs to be about something bigger. It needs to be a purpose. And if you have a purpose, then it's relatively easy to bounce back, because you just have to remind yourself of what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it.
That's amazing. That's so true. So one of the reasons I'm also really keen to talk to people like yourself, Tristram, is putting the human back in human resources. So I want to ask you a question. What would be one thing that people wouldn't know about you that you'd love to share?
I think a lot of people wouldn't know. Some people do. I've shared this a couple of times in different forums, but I've always been a bit of a performer. So
really,
from when I was a child and performing in musicals in the local community hall, through to without having any experience or really much intent, I put my name down for the school play when I had no experience really in acting at all, other than this musical I'd done when I was about 10 or 11, and the drama teacher hated my brother, so I had no expectation of getting in, and then ended up with the lead role in the play where I played twins. So I had to basically go off stage as one character and come on as another, and I was on stage for I think 34 out of 37 scenes or something.
Wow.
So, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And so I've basically, when I was in the school choir, I sang at the Royal Festival Hall and the Royal Opera House, and
wow,
understudy for a solo in an opera. So I've had quite a lot of that going on for a lot of my life. And then when I got to about 30, 35, I started doing stand-up for about 10 years. There are a handful.
That's fantastic. Oh, Tristram, well, just if we're talking about things that people wouldn't know, I actually did speech and drama for 7 years. So I love the stage. Absolutely love it. And you're right, it takes so much time. But there is nothing like the thrill of stepping out onto a stage. And yeah, it's spectacular.
And I think that the habit of stepping out of your comfort zone is a really good one to develop. And if you get to the point where you're stepping out on stage and it's a experience, you probably ought to give it up.
That's right.
It's the tension, the nerves, the adrenaline rush just before you get announced and you're walking onto stage. It makes it all worthwhile to me. It's
and it's now in hindsight looking at it, it's the perfect teamwork. Like it's the perfect. So working in a play, or if someone isn't doing what they said they were going to do, no one else can do their job. So probably led me really well into what I do now. So to us fellow theatre buffs, I just love it, and I miss it terribly. But as you said, it's so much time, and my brain just doesn't work after 2 children. Well, Tristram, I want to thank you so much for being so giving in your advice, and it truly is such a refreshing conversation to have, not necessarily about systems and processes, but about legacy. And I can almost guarantee, if people actually think about it when they're in business, legacy is so vitally important, whether it be just within your sphere of influence or as in your case and a lot of other businesses' case, having that global impact, which is spectacular. So thank you. And I'll obviously put all of the links there for everyone to be able to contact yourself and also the B1G1. So thank you. Thanks, Tristram. Have a great day.
It's been my pleasure, Melissa. Thank you. And you have a great day too.
No worries. Bye.
Bye.